before Ravan could touch her, she calls upon Ravan's own sword to take her life. Here, it is important to note that Vaidehi was not a helpless woman who depended on others for her protection. सियावर रामचंद्र की जय. In today's edition of Manas for Manush, we will go through the Sundarkand Doha number 9, Chaupai number 3, through which we will get to understand why Mata Seeta began to seek death in front of Ravan. Chandrahaas haru mam paritapam Raghupati birah anal sanjatam Seetal nisit bahasi bardhara Kah Seeta haru mam dukh bhara. Acharya Chanakya had a choice. He could have swallowed the insult inflicted upon him by Dhananand, the king of Magad, and then he would not have had to establish a new empire. Chhatrapati Shambhaji Maharaj had a choice. Had he agreed to convert his religion, he would not have had to sacrifice his life. King Harishchandra had a choice. Had he compromised on his principles and spoken a single lie, his wife would not have had to be humiliated in order to perform the last rites of their son. In the same way, Maharana Pratap had a choice. Had he accepted subjugation, he would not have had to eat bread made of grass. But great souls do not compromise on their principles, even if they have to pay the price with their own lives. And truly, there is nothing worse than living a life under slavery. Paradhin swapnehu sukh nahi. Even in dreams, there is no happiness in slavery. Thus, when Mother Seeta saw no path by which she could free herself, she considered attaining a heroic death better than living such a subjugated life. In this situation, after declaring her pledge that she would embrace the touch of a sword before Ravan could touch her, she calls upon Ravan's own sword to take her life. Addressing Ravana's sword, Chandrahaas, the valiant Janki says, Chandrahaas haru mam paritapam Raghupati birah anal sanjatam Seetal nisit bahasi bardhara Kah Seeta haru mam dukh bhara. O Chandrahaas, remove my torment, my burning pain, remove that anguish which has risen from the fire of separation from Lord Sri Raghunath. You are virtuous, sharp, and your flow is supreme. That is, your blade brings coolness, is fast, and your wound is deep. Therefore, you alone can remove the burden of my sorrow. Free me from this weight of pain. Here, it is important to note that Vaidehi was not a helpless woman who depended on others for her protection. She herself was a warrior knowledgeable in the use of weapons and skilled in the art of warfare. Nor was she attempting surrender. She was choosing death. Just as a normal warrior, when captured by the enemy in battle and given a choice between mercy and death, considers choosing death more honorable than living a subjugated life at the enemy's mercy. However, before reaching this point, Janaki made great efforts to reason with Ravan. She explained to him that his act was not only immoral but would also destroy his valor, his reputation, his honor, and his fame. In the Valmiki Ramayana, Sarga number 21, Shlok number 8, Vaidehi says to Dashanan, Atushtam sweshu dareshu chapalam chalite indriyam nayanti nikrati pragyam pardaraha parabhavam. The women of others whom you seek to influence will also despise a man of such depraved mentality, one who is not content with his own wives, who is fickle, restless, unstable, and who has no control over his senses. But Ravan was so intoxicated with arrogance that nothing such had any effect on him. When, in helplessness, Seeta spoke of death, and while speaking to the sword, Vaidehi was also conveying this message. When no living person is listening to her cry and to her plea for freedom, perhaps it is worth speaking even to a mute, lifeless sword. Perhaps even it might feel some compassion for her condition and deliver her death. So what lesson do we learn from today's Chaupai? When the sensitivity of living people dies, one is forced to plead even with lifeless objects. Baba's Brahmagyan today is dedicated to those who lack sensitivity. Sensitivity alone is what makes a human being truly human. Everything else is merely the law of the jungle, where the one with greater brute force claims greater authority. Living together and sharing with one another, that is what makes us human. Now look at this mother. Beyond feeding her own children, she is also making arrangements for the meals of other children as well.
ताती रोटियां गरम में कुर्सी डांगी तो देख कितना धुआं निकल रहा रोटी में, देख तो रोटी कर रहे, देख कितना ताती कुर्सी डांगी वाली वाली गरम है। आओ क्या है, कहाँ है ताती रोटी समझना ले।
मैंने तो इन चौपाइयों को आप तक पहुंचा दिया, इन्हें आगे बढ़ाने की अब है आपकी बारी। तो बोलो, मंगल भवन अमंगल हारी, द्रबहु सुदशरथ अजिर बिहारी।